Hi, this is Nicker from Vibes. I'm here to talk about the past, the present, the future, and do some crazy predictions. Now, the past. The past is that Briar really set the pace, and that all decks were trying to copy Plunder Run, even Iro decks putting in Blitz. The Plunder Run just to compete with that pressure that Briar was able to put out. Now, of course, the Sting Sorcery Ball turns, the Plunder Run Go Wide turns, they had a redundancy with annoying on-hit effects that was really hard to pivot around, right? So if you have flat damage, you can calculate, but with an on-hit, especially if it's a draw, it's really hard to estimate how much more damage will come at you. And then the basic premises here is a 4 attack versus a 6 attack doesn't really make that much of a difference, right? Both, even the 6 attack flat damage, I would take that 3 damage versus that 4 hit that I have to block with equipment. It's just, apparently it was too much, so it was orbitally nuked. But again, this is the past. So will decks get slower or not? Well, Kano certainly preyed upon these redliner decks, these zero pitch decks. So even the national champs, right? He took it all with with Kano. Now you got to be skilled with Kano, but as player level or general player experience is increasing, Kano is getting more accessible. But a really aggressive meta, apparently with a ton of red cards, is useful for Kano. So will we still see Kano? Will be that dread for future Blitz metas? Now in the present, we're here now. Dust off your Prism decks, total meta shakeup, with Prism being more useful, boltwin will show up, and Dash, who had this inevitable late game of a control beast, now has some more time to set up, right? Get those items in play. But then, of course, there's still Chane, which is a really efficient, aggressive deck. And apparently the C-bands now made it more fun to play against. And with those really fast decks now out of the question, maybe some slower decks getting back into it. It can pitch stack versus Oldhim with the inevitable, not Doomsday, Eclipse from Banish even. So if you have sufficient amount of blood depth for the late game and for the early game, it can go wide extremely efficiently with still the Rosetta being super efficient with that one resource, not being able to block, still going wide, seeing extra cards. So yeah, Chane is now the aggro deck of choice. I don't know about Katsu. There's also some cards that are coming out, and actually it made also good use of Plunder Run. Now I have to apparently it was an uphill battle for Rhinar against Briar, but it preyed upon control decks really well with just removing block options from the hand and going for that Corrodor Intimidate late game and just pushing out 16 damage in a turn. Being quite efficient with pitch stacking, especially in Classic Constructed. I think for Levia, for Blitz would have been, is better. But I haven't played it myself, but I've been hearing sounds about Levia being picked up and winning more and more games. So I haven't put it here in my slides, but Levia, and especially that Mansan. If you go check out Levia on YouTube, you'll definitely hit his videos. Go check them out. They're an excellent resource. But all in all, the grandfather, which only opponent is, his only opponent is time. So it's actually your opponent who sets the pace. How fast will he block? Have you even heard from players? Well, I don't pitch an ice card to the Winter's Will just because it uses up a critical thinking time from my opponent with how he will block. I just deck out each and every opponent. That's a strategy that Oldhim can do. You can get a bit more aggressive. Maybe now the Briar is you can play a bit less defensive. So Prism or Oldhim, that's my prediction. But Chane is also still up there, and eventually, yeah, my bet's on Chane. So Chane will be the beast to to watch out for. At least test against Chane, be a competent Chane player, know how the interactions work if you want to go for that top level slots. But in the end, you know nothing. We'll have to see what players bring in, especially in the Dutch meta. There are quite a lot of players who bring in their pet decks from the dawn of days. I'm looking at you, Jonathan. Dawn of days, get it? Dawnblade. Okay. But yeah, in the end, you know nothing. You have to test out. You have to see what the first tournaments will be like in a Briar-less meta. Although I expect some players to still bring out the Earth version of Briar. So don't discount her yet. For the future, now I'm looking at a further future because, of course, predicting tomorrow's meta is already a type of future. And after the orbital nuking, this guy said it on Reddit. Grabbing my notes here. I wrote his name here somewhere. I forgot. But will we curse, celebrate, or forget 8 months or 9 months from now what they did to Briar? And with how 63% of Living Legend points at Nationals was too much for the Living Legend system. And so it's not that they achieved 60 points of total Living Legend, but the total 60% of Living Legend points. So that is warping. So seeing it from that perspective, they'll probably be right in taking an action. Why they didn't do it prior to Nationals or their previous bans, because they wanted to spare the Nationals from Nats in Australia. So it's all a bit awkward, but here we are. Great prediction time. Everfest is around the corner, so I did a bit of number crunching. It's a little puzzle game, right? So something that I enjoy doing myself. We can speculate on what cards will be banned next, but yeah, I'm not working in LSS, so I'll stick to doing some number crunching and stamping that only FOBs confirmed sticker on stuff. Now, can we do something? Maybe not. Yeah, of course, you can divide everything in classes, and we know where one hero is with the Ice Lady, right? So I did a bit of quick math. 7 classes, 3 talents, 3 sub talents, and generics. So that's 14. 14 times 3 for the Majestics would be 42 plus 3 sprinkled about each and every class. Now, something interesting in Crucible was that it's rare, legendary, majestic, and now if you have 3 plus 3, oh, that's one too many already. But if you can see here, this round for me probably the last, because yeah, okay, upheaval, victorious, undead, zombie. Okay, there are fancy words with which end on an M, but so this mixture here with Skullcap, I'm thinking there's 3 pieces of equipment just like Crucible, and then there are some 6-ish Majestics, generic Majestic, but then there are a swath of generic cards. This here is from the other list, but so that's the part that you're seeing here. Actually moving my mouse around here. See this list. And can we say for sure that this will be a mixture, with here being the Ice Lady? 3 cards just could be in between here, some more Majestics, some less Majestics. Just did some general looking around, and how soon we can fill in 1 or 2 or blanks here, I think that will say something about how much equipment will be in here. But I'm not seeing a lot of room, maybe here or there in general, but mostly it will be 3 Majestics for each and every subcategory, being the classes. So each warrior, and then you get warrior, light warrior card available. Now we have ice wizard cards available, so there's still a mixture of this. It's not set in stone like that. And now me doing some more thinking, it's not so much set in stone as I was thinking it was earlier. So all in all, it's just like Jon Snow being, you know nothing. Be gracious in defeat and humble in victory. Don't get discouraged by your local meta overlords. And I think a fair point now would be grab an old shell that you knew worked in a Briarless meta, pick it up and try it now versus other decks. And don't change too much about your last or final list, or even if you only try 1 or 2 new cards, I think that's sufficient. And make your adjustments incremental. Don't throw it around too quickly. Sprinkle in 1 or 2 new cards, and even adjusting a card slot from 2 to 3. Especially if you're going against Felttable, the AI. If you test out decks there, you can identify which cards are insufficient or are lackluster in feeling, or just clogging up in your hand or arsenal. That's a way to test decks. See you next time, and when I'll do some crazy more predictions. Only Fobs confirmed.